Welcome to the Devtron dashboard. If this is your first time exploring Devtron, Devtron is an open source Kubernetes management platform which is designed for helping you deploy your applications and manage them. This video will cover how you can deploy your very first application to a Kubernetes cluster and start managing it. To get started, create a custom application. Give it a name. In this case, we will be deploying a Node.js application. We can give it a slight description, such as a simple Node.js web server, and we can select the project where we want to deploy this application. I can go ahead and create this app, and let's start configuring it. So first off, we need to provide the Git repository where our application's code exists. For this demonstration, I will be using this simple getting started Node.js application. You can find this repository under the Devtron Labs GitHub organization. Let me provide this URL as my Git repository URL. I can save this and move to the next step. In the build configurations, I need to provide a container registry where I can push my container images to. Right here, I have a demo Docker Hub registry, and I will be using this particular container repository where my image will be pushed. So I can configure that within the dashboard. For building a container image, I need a Docker file. If I already have the Docker file, I can select I have a Docker file option. Or in case a Docker file does not exist, I can create a Docker file from the given templates. If I don't want to use a Docker file, I can also opt for using build packs. Since this application already has a Docker file, I will simply select the I have a Docker file option and I can save this. Next, we move on to the deployment configurations. Within these configurations, I can set application specific configurations such as the port, the number of replicas which I want, or the auto scaling rules. In case you are not familiar with using YAML, you can also get a GUI view where you can edit critical settings. After saving this, it's time to create the pipelines. We can create a new pipeline workflow, and we will be building and deploying this application right from its source code. So I need to provide the branch name for this particular application. Over on GitHub, I can see that it's using the master branch. So I can provide the exact same branch name in Devtron. Once the build pipeline is ready, it's time to create the deployment pipeline. I can simply click on this plus icon and I will create a Helm deployment. Select the environment where you wish to deploy this application. For this particular demonstration, we'll be deploying to the Devtron demo environment. And we will select an automatic pipeline execution. Let's create the pipeline. Once the pipeline is created, I can head over to the Build and Deploy tab, and I can trigger the build process. After triggering the build process, I can take a look at the logs which will be generated. While the build is in progress, I can see all the individual steps which are happening. For example, I can see the Docker login steps. I can see the Docker build stage, where I can observe all of the different processes that are happening for building the container image. After my build process is completed, I can head back to the build and deploy tab, and you will notice that the deployment stage has automatically triggered. This is because we had configured the deployment stage to automatically trigger once build is complete. In case I did not set it to automatic, I would simply have to select the image and I would see a list of all the images that have been built. I can select the image which I wish to deploy and click on deploy. Once the deployment has been triggered, I can see all of the application's statuses in the app details page. So here you can see that I can see the application status, which is healthy right now. I can see the deployment status as well, and I can see all the different Kubernetes resources that are deployed for this particular application. From the networking tab, I can see the service which is exposing this application. I can check its manifest files to get the node port number. As this Devtron instance is deployed on a kind cluster, I can access the application on localhost with this port number. As you can see, I can access the Node.js web server through this URL. And I can also check the application's health. Within the pod, I can perform multiple actions such as checking the manifest file of the pod, checking out the events, checking out the logs, as well as gain access to a terminal in case I want to perform any debugging activities for the pod. In case it is a minimal container, which means it would not even have a shell environment, I can also launch an ephemeral container. This ephemeral container would contain all of my debugging utilities. Devtron also maintains a complete audit log of the build history and the deployment history. So I can see which deployments have succeeded and which have failed. With this, you have successfully deployed an application on Devtron.